What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode number 1 of the Gaming on the Brain podcast. I'm Mark.
I'm Glenn.
We want to tell you first a little bit about Gaming on the Brain. So this is a brand new channel / podcast available on YouTube and all major podcast platforms. What we'd like to do with the podcast in itself is weekly we'll take a game that's,
it's cherished
by us, important to us, as part of our childhood, or sometimes something a little bit more current, perhaps, depending on what we feel like
or
doing.
obscure, who knows?
Or
something
obscure,
that's just got a little bit of history behind it.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So just something that means something to us both, basically, that, we've got some passion about, want to talk to you guys about. And, we'll break it down. We'll talk you through the levels, talk you through the difficulty, talk about how it's presented, that kind of thing. The usual stuff. And what we'd like to do though is welcome you guys along for that journey, and also please, leave us some comments, perhaps mention some games from your, childhood, or anything that you've played in the past.
Maybe some suggestions that you could be interested as well, because if it overlaps with what we like, you might even get an article to put together. If it's something that's interests us all.
Could even get a few guests on the show from time to time and talk it through with you, and let's share our opinions. Possibly some hot takes if we can find some. But what we'd like to do today is come out of the gate strong with an absolute barnstorm of an arcade game.
And it absolutely is, for both of us and many others, I'm sure.
A 16-bit Sega classic. And, hopefully you all agree, but one of the best games ever released, I think, in the arcade.
Yeah.
And that game is, Glenn?
Golden Axe.
Golden Axe.
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna break it down, talk you through it. I think it's about an hour and 20 minutes long, so I do apologise for the length of the episode, but I hope you stick with it. There's a lot to say.
Yeah, there's a lot. We'll break a game down. We'll break almost like a sort of walkthrough, isn't it?
Kind of, yeah. And it's one of our favourite arcade games, and there's a lot of passion there for that.
Oh,
game.
Definitely. I mean, it's magical. But we do go into detail a little bit of there's some more well known or more infamous ports, conversions of the game, because there is some that worth mentioning.
Mega Drive games mentioned quite a lot.
Yeah, well, it has to be.
It's a very, very close tie to the arcade with some extra bells and whistles, I would have said.
Makes it one of a kind time.
Please stick with us. We're going to have a quick introduction, and then we'll get straight into the episode. Please, like I said before, if you enjoy or if you don't enjoy, leave us a comment. Let us know what we can do to make things better. Please subscribe. We'd love to see you again. And tell your friends about us, because we're new and we want to try and make this a success. And
I think it'll work.
I hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll see you on the other side.
You've got Gaming on the Brain.
Welcome back. As I probably mentioned already, and I'm sure we'll have in the introduction, today is Golden Axe, an absolute legend of an arcade game by Sega on the System 16.
Yeah, that's the one, System 16
hardware. The System 16 hardware, what can you really say notable about that? It's
well, I always loved the soundtrack. I thought it was a very versatile hardware as well, with so many different games available. But I just thought many System 16 games had a very notable, when I say soundtrack, the music, it's sound effects.
Hardware,
you hear a game and you got used to what games. If you want to generalise at the time, what game was Sega, and you'd know, or Konami, we know the noise. Everyone knows the noise, just the sound. So there's a bit of that with Sega, and definitely with the System 16B system. I say a B because there's obviously the A system as well, which I believe the Shinobi is a good example, is on that. It was just a slight difference in years, and there's some advancements on the B system. I'll not go into that though personally right now.
Whatever. Just before we get into the meat of the episode and talk about Golden Axe, Other notable System 16 games, Altered Beast, I expect.
Believe it is System B. No, actually not A. I think it is. I think it might have been the first System 16B game.
So is Golden Axe System 16B? Or?
Yeah, definitely B.
Right,
yeah,
okay.
I mean, I had a couple of PCBs at the time now, and I remember that one being specifically B. S1E1, I believe it is. Let's have a think. S1E1, another good one. Yeah. That's offhand. A couple of Riot City, one of my favourites, which that might be a story for another day. Riot City, because that's since gained a little cult following, but it's never been a big game. Probably also because it's not a Sega game directly, but I digress. Yeah, but there's a few good titles on the System 16B system. It's probably their stalwart system at the time.
Yeah.
Before moving on to the System 18, which never had as many titles or as many big titles. I mean, yeah, Alien Storm is a good example, but it's just the System 16B board was so much well known and had so much more games built for it.
Yeah, there's an absolute ton. We'll not go into them because it will take too long.
Yeah, it is easy. There's plenty of sources on the internet to see this, and it is worth looking if you're also interested in PCBs and the hardware, especially if you're into collecting and that, or even building or repairing the boards themselves. Yeah.
So Golden Axe, let's talk a little bit about the plot. So it's basically your typical revenge story, isn't it?
Golden Axe, yeah,
dominated the arcades at the time.
Golden Axe. The thing is about Golden Axe is, yeah, as Mark says, it is a revenge plot, but obviously it's you only have to have had a little bit of experience of the 80s to see that it's completely based on Conan the Barbarian. I mean, even down to the main bad guy, Death Adder, is pretty much a version of Thulsa Doom from the Conan the Barbarian movie, not the comics. That's something else for another day, maybe. But I mean, the look's completely different. But the fact that he's snake-based, it's a snake cult, a snake god, and that, and I thought, it was cleverly done. I mean, that great bit, just great little cutscene, if you want to call it, which probably wouldn't have been used in 1989, is at the end of Golden Axe, just before the ending of the final fight, where Death Adder, in the arcade version, remember, only forms up from the snakes and develops into his final being, so you see what he actually is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the plot is heavily based on many European hack and slash movies of the time, Krull, I say Sword and the Sorcerer, and obviously, Conan the Barbarian. 3 great characters as well, 3 fantastic characters, I thought, obviously with Axe Battler, Gilius Thunderhead and Tyrus Flare. Gilius Thunderhead's everybody's favourite, but generally, the great thing about Golden Axe in the arcades is that they do all have, I mean, I know this is a cliche, but they do all have strengths and weaknesses. Now, obviously, Tyrus is generally considered the weakest physical character, and you're going to be doing much more fighting than using magic. She's faster, and she does have that great kick, so, and also it's a little bit of, if you can beat it with Tyrus and that without taking a hit, then you're quite a good Golden Axe player.
God, yes.
So
so the kick Glenn talked about, each character you've got was essentially a running attack, double tap forward and attack, and Tyrus Flare has his flying kick and
it's got priority, hasn't it?
Yeah,
it's the most powerful of the 3 running attacks.
It's essentially unbeatable. So you could just use Tyrus to beat the game with her flying.
Yeah, well, I would say you're pretty much spot on. We're still talking about the arcade game here. Well, this is the thing what Mark's saying, because you sort of can beat the game fully with just that move. I mean, it's a boring way to play it, but you can. Yeah. And the Bitter Knights are quite quick, and they can deflect the running attack of Axe Battler and Gilius, but from what I remember right when I do play, if you play with Tyrus and you don't just try and hit them head on, you'll connect every time. Mega Drive is a very quick mention. That move is pretty much invincible for everybody, but Axe Battler, who's so shoulder charge, very slow and doesn't have a lot of priority. But yeah, for Tyrus, you could get through a great portion of the game. Even Death Adder, you could knock Death Adder down and then, without using any other attack, just keep on ploughing into him every time he gets to his knees. It's a slow move, slow damaging move, like a low damaging move, but it'll get you through the game. I mean, it's less. What's good about Golden Axe if you want to spam a move is it's still less of a priority and less broken, say, the elbow and Double Dragon 1. So we'll get into that one day as well, which does a ton of damage and pretty much takes out everybody without any hassle. So Golden Axe is an easy game. We'll get the point there. Definitely say that. It's a very easy game to play. It's only about 10 to 15 minutes long if you're decent at the game. If you're a bit poor at the game, maybe it'll take you half an hour because you'll struggle with a couple of the tougher bosses, definitely the Knights, maybe a couple of the Giants as well, because there is 3 large character types. Skeletons as well, another character who's quite tough to beat. So it'll take you a bit of time to get through them. But generally speaking, it's a well built game for what it is, and for its time of 1989 as well.
So we talked a bit about Tyrus. We might as well finish off the trio. So
yeah, why not?
Axe Battler, he's pretty much your medium.
Oh, well, we're forgetting something. I think we should definitely mention the Magics just for 1 second, though.
Yeah.
So go back to Tyrus a sec. Like, definitely got to mention the Magic.
You finish off Tyrus.
Golden Axe has got, for us, not me, because he'll absolutely agree. I know he will without us even putting this question beforehand. Some of the absolutely most fantastic graphical, magical special effects ever seen in a game. And just to mention its arcade sequel for 1 second, I'm actually more impressed generally with the magic effect of Golden Axe 1 than 2. We'll get to that one day, but
stop talking about Golden Axe 2.
Yeah, we can't talk about Golden Axe 2. It's its own thing.
Another day.
But it's got. I mean, every character's got a set of different spells, and Tyrus, like I said, magic being our strength, has 6 different types, all starting with like a very weak sort of like fire sprite. So you press your magic button after you've picked up the little blue pots, which you get from beating up the blue thieves. Pick up those pots, and you've got a lower level spell for every single pot that you use in a magic spell. But if you, with a risk and reward system in place, the more pots that you acquire, the stronger and better looking the spell becomes. Now, to acquire certain spells on her scale, because each character has a grid that has a set of spells, which as you move into the next number, into the next spell level, changes physically.
And it's a bar, yeah. Tyrus, it counts like 1 to 6, but it might take more than one magic pot to fill 1 bar.
Now,
so it can, I think it's 10, isn't it? For example,
I think it actually is for her. Now, from a strategic standpoint, just to stick, if you're sticking to strategy here, you'd be better off just picking up one. Like you say, you're fighting Death Adder, who takes a lot of hits. If you could just pick up 1 magic pot at a time if there's a ton on the floor, which there should be in that scene, and just use them 1 at a time, and you will actually generally do a bit more damage than if you pick up 3 or 4 just to reach level. I can't remember offhand where it will be on the scale, but say 2 or 3. But if you just want to see a better looking spell and all for a bit less damage, because some of the later spells from about level 4, I think, because I believe it's 5 is actually the Ghost, which to me is based heavily on Raiders of the Lost Ark, the scene at the end where everyone melts. You see, but it's a fire ghost, and it's actually almost more cooler than the level 6 magic, which is a massive dragon head that just sears everything, but it makes a load of noise on screen. So it's satisfying to use, even though it's just simply the touch of a button. That's what I'll say about the magic for Tyrus. And I think we'll move back there.
Tyrus has got the strongest magic and the best running attack, which has got the shortest reach, which makes her very difficult to play.
Our slashes are quick, aren't they?
Yeah,
our close range slashing. Yeah,
she's basically the Blaze from Streets of Rage.
Yeah.
You've got your Axe Battler, which he's pretty much your medium character, so like your Axel from Streets of Rage. However, he's
a worse character for me, because normally your Jack of all, like Axel, is like I say a middle range, but he's just like really good for a beginner. Now Axe Battler, his range is not as good as Gilius's. It's a bit better than Tyrus, but his slashes are very slow.
Yeah.
And he's got magic at level 4, which is obviously only 1 more than Gilius's level 3, but 2 less than Tyrus. And his shoulder charge is terrible. Yeah. It's very close range, and it actually often gets parried by many of the enemies, even lower level enemies like the Ningas and Longmoans. So he's quite weak.
He ends up just being a bit weaker than Tyrus.
Yeah, so I would say when you're going to go for like bragging rights, probably play with Axe Battler over Tyrus or Gilius.
But then Gilius, he has the weakest magic, but he's got by far the best attack because of the range. And his running headbutt or running kick move, or whatever you want to call it,
it's fantastic.
It's like a medium level, and it's great. It works for a lot.
It struggles against the knights, and that's about it. And you can hit them in a certain way that you can get them most times without being caught and thrown. But as far as like any other enemy in the game, and I believe, if I'm right, even Death Adder, his headbutt charges is fantastic. Like he's just such a great character to play as, though.
Each character, if you're getting back into the plot for a second, each character has their own agenda for why they want to kill Death Adder. I think well,
Gilius lost his twin brother, so his plan is, and
Death Adder killed his twin brother.
Yeah, he lost. That's it. Death Adder killed his twin brother. His plan is to kill Death Adder, then commit suicide. Since apparently it is actually
so dark.
Yeah, it's actually within his like dwarf clan, that is part of what like their ritual upon losing a sibling is to kill. Right. Yeah, and I thought, it's dark, but obviously we know without mentioning that game again.
Yep.
We know that he doesn't kill himself, but anyway.
Axe Battler's mother's father's best friend's uncle got killed or something. Somewhere else.
Well, Axe loses his mother.
He didn't lose her. He didn't just lose her.
He didn't lose it down the set or anything. No, well, I don't want to, in this day and age in 2023, I don't want to be seeing Death Adder as being a violent man,
He is violent.
He might have issues, he could have mental health problems.
He's a violent bastard.
And he should be, actually.
Sum it up.
Death Adder slaughtered his mother, horribly.
Not Death Adder's mother, he slaughtered Axe Battler's mother.
No, Death Adder never had a mother, I think.
He probably didn't.
No, it should have been a snake anyway.
Should have been devastated.
The anaconda off the big thing off the end of that middle of Conan the Barbarian that's under the... the one. But, yeah, so Axe Battler's mother's murdered, but Tyrus probably has it hardest because she lost both her mother and... There's that word again. Tyrus had her mother and father murdered horribly by Death Adder.
Well done.
So two very close family members there. So some might say she has the strongest agenda, although really either way. One thing I've not mentioned so far is that what Golden Axe means to me.
Yeah.
I really need to mention this because I'll say this in nearly every segment that we do, and I will mean it because just about every game, if not every game, is from the heart because it's something that I've loved since childhood. For me, I was introduced to the Mega Drive version first, and that blew me away. But that will be mentioned a little bit later. The reasons why that game blew us away, and then I moved back into the arcade and was initially, for a strange thing to say, a little bit disappointed. And you'll find out why after playing and completing the Mega Drive and then going back to playing the arcade version.
Yeah.
But I was blown away to have been brought into a world of what now. Now, even just into the mid-90s, was just something I couldn't comprehend. Having an arcade game that was a great fun play for 10 pence at the time. Very rarely would have been 20 pence in 1989 and 90.
It's a very enjoyable game.
And then you'd have a home version maybe on your Commodore 64 at the time, or if you were rich, an Amiga. But they were very rarely advanced beyond the original version, or there might be a couple of little tweaks here and there. Or you might have an example just quickly, like say, Double Dragon 2 on the NES, which is a beautiful game, but is a very, very different game from the arcade version. It's such a different game that it could even be a different game with a different title. So, but to have a game that plays pretty much like the arcade version and looks like it as well, but to have a lot of extra material was the reason I got into Golden Axe on the Mega Drive initially in the first place, then start playing the arcade game more and flitting between the two, because although they play similar, they do play differently enough that you can get little nuggets of love from either version. I mean, I've always loved how you kill the bad guys in the arcade version and they turn to stone and lie there. Little things. Yeah. It's just like, I know it's only a little aesthetic feature, which we'll mention in presentation, but it looks cool, especially when you've got a guy who's you've just knocked half off a cliff and he's like turned to stone.
He's hanging on.
It just look weird but cool at the same time.
He's sitting perfectly horizontal from his ankle.
I found as well, I mean, obviously the general layout of the levels between those two versions does stay the same. The layout of enemies doesn't, and that's a nice little change. So you can take some slightly different experiences from those two versions, the arcade and the Mega Drive. But also Golden Axe was the first game that really, well, the very first game for me, the very first game was actually Spy Hunter, but that's another story. But the first game that I really spent a lot of time with and started to understand arcade games and got interested in PCBs when I started collecting, and just wanting to know more about the arcade scene in general was Golden Axe for me. So that was just what I wanted to say. I mean, have you got anything further to say yourself? I mean, I got you into that at the time.
I don't want to. I'm not going to get into it too much. I'll get into it at the end when we'll give our final verdicts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But just to drop back into the presentation a little bit and whatnot. What I always found, and not necessarily graphics or anything, because we'll get to that, but it was always just a nice package, the arcade game.
Oh, yeah.
It was very well presented. The attract.
Well, we have to mention the sound, and you know why I've got to mention the sound? Because Golden Axe uses sample effects from various popular films of the time. In fact, All the Beast does too as well, as we've discussed before, and because the same sound designers are involved. The sample effects from classic films like Rambo, Conan, funny enough, Conan, and The Howling, funny enough, which no one's ever touched on the internet, but there is sound effects in there from The Howling, and that's in All the Beast. The music, it does stick with like a more of a European style, and it's similar to what you would expect from that type of game, where they could have just went with a Japanese butt rock or something, which absolutely wouldn't have worked at that time for that particular game, or a more jazzy soundtrack. I mean, it's meant to be like downtrodden and morose, and I mean, the thing about Golden Axe's graphics, though, as well, to really just move into this, I've got to say it while I'm here, is I think they're excellent. I love the sort of dull, deep colours, especially of the arcade game.
It's a very attractive game.
It is. It's
big sprites and things like that.
And it is, and they keep a certain palette, so it's not bright like, say, Final Fight from Capcom, but it's got enough sort of like richness to the colour to make it look like a European game without it actually being a European game at all, I thought. And that's what just attracted me to the game. I mean, lots of different, well, not lots of different enemy types, but each enemy type has many different colours, and they look great when they're fighting together. And that, now normally people say palette swaps, you know, and obviously that's became a meme in itself with like the various ninjas of Mortal Kombat. But back at the time of Golden Axe, you know, it meant something because all these different palette swaps looked cool when you were fighting together. And you knew for a fact you could look at a certain enemy colour type and go, I know he's stronger than him, and so on and so forth. And you could pick and choose your opponents to battle. And it was just a nice little nod that stuck with presentation, and obviously it worked into the gameplay as well.
Yeah, just leaning more on the graphics. Animation-wise, I mean, the game looks fantastic.
It's adequate with its animation, yeah. I mean, it's not as animated as, say, Final Fight, which is the same year. Yeah. Although Final Fight does stroke more in 1990, depending on which version you played. But it's excellent for the time, and it's completely acceptable. You know?
I think it does a lot of good work with the sprites.
It's the background
to give like almost a sense of motion blur, and obviously it isn't motion blur because we're talking about a game from 1989. But the way
enemies are swinging the weapons,
like
it's all done with
like a motion, like a swinging motion, in the swing of the weapon.
Little like nods, that. They could have easily just avoided putting that in.
Yeah, and it just leans to the presentation and just makes everything like a grander package. You know,
fantastic backgrounds. I mean, they obviously in a little nod back to, say, Double Dragon. They're all multi-tiered, so many of them have got like at least one level which you'll be a step up onto or jump.
Yeah, like a platform, like not a platform game, but a platform high up.
It's not a flat game like, say, Final Fight or even Alien Storm for that matter. But it
adds a little bit.
It does. But as well, one of the big things for presentation for me is I know we've just mentioned music. All the themes are excellent. I mean, there's not an enormous amount of them, but there just doesn't need to be. There is only 5 levels to Golden Axe.
Each level's got its own music.
It's got its own unique thing, which you would have expected in
track mode.
And there's 2 different boss themes. Obviously, the final boss theme. And there's a thing called Battleground, which is the one you have at the end of every first 4 levels, and actually is the main theme of the final level. But that thing, what happens is it fades out. The basic level theme fades out, and the Battleground theme, Battlefield theme, fades in and comes in, and then you'll be at a boss fight. And that just it's so ominous, I thought, at the time, especially the first time you faced the Bad Brothers on level 1. And
it does. It helps set the atmosphere of the game. Which I think it does a very good job of that anyway. You know, it's just like I say, the overall package is fantastic, and it's typical of games from that time. They still look an absolute beautiful thing to play now.
Oh yeah, well that's why it'll be timeless. I mean, the whole aspect of Golden Axe in the arcade is just it's probably, I mean, it's definitely one of Sega's best beat 'em up games. I mean, they have quite a few on the belt now, and obviously there's home games we'll talk about at some point which are better. But there's reasons for that. I mean, when you were talking about 3 or 4 years later, what do you expect? You know, completely different engine as well, and different style of fighting. But for its time, and yes, and for now, Golden Axe is still an excellent game. Definitely surpassed by others, including certain sequels. But for its absolute time, I mean, Golden Axe is just still a great masterpiece. Like,
tell you what, we haven't touched on the attract mode differemember
it should be worth mentioning. Actually, there's 2 very different ones. I mean.
I'll tell you a little story here if you care. But I remember I was in, I think it was Dunes or something, or Leisure World or something in South Shields or whatever it was called.
We're seeing that one. I remember that cabinet was another one as well.
Past the cabinet,
same 2
with Golden Axe, and I remember just out of the corner of my eye catching a little animation sequence of a long one getting his head cut off.
Yeah,
I was like,
and it flies towards the screen. Was it a bit of simple sprite scale in there? You know,
did I just see that? So I hung around and watched the rest of the attract mode, and sure enough, it happened.
But there was a slight disappointment though, because after seeing that, I expected to go into the game and be able to chop heads off and everything. So there is none of that, unfortunately, in Golden Axe, but it is what it is.
But what I mentioned it to you, I think, and you told us about this, and apparently only the Japanese version has that animation.
Yeah, it's not in the worldwide
the EU and US or world versions are just the standard attract mode with the Golden Axe lettering and the clouds. And then a little brief gameplay demo with a bit of a story and background for each character, you know, which is more than adequate.
It's it. I was just going to say, I mean, there is a character called Alex. Got to mention Alex. Great, good old Alex.
Good old Alex.
And now I don't know to this day, and like I say, I've loved Golden Axe since I was pretty much introduced to it in 1990, about a year after its release, maybe shortly after Mega Drive. And this character, Alex, we don't to this day know who he actually is, and I've never really checked. And he's an
NPC at the very start.
Yeah.
But he just starts the story. Basically, he gets killed in front of you, and that's it. You murder everyone. You've already got an agenda. Now you've got more of an agenda.
Yeah, since Alex is gone, you know. I want to play as Alex one day. I hope they release Alex's story. But I would love to have a side story one of these days where we'll find out his role and like why he was there, who actually. Well, we know who killed him. It was a silver longbow one, man. Behind chopped him. So when we even see his murder in the arcade version, back,
basically.
But yeah, I mean, it's there's plenty of NPCs actually. I mean, they don't really play a part in the game, but if you run past some villagers that just scream at you, but there is times where you'll see a villager who's getting beaten up by a longbow, or possibly one of the big guys is laughing at them and that, and you can free them and that. Now, there's no obvious advantage to that, but I do believe, although I don't know for definite, I do believe that it does count towards your overall score at the end. I mean, said later games in the series, there is times where it does actually give you on-screen physical gameplay benefits, but for Golden Axe 1 it doesn't, but it doesn't need to. At the end of the day, unless you're a bad man yourself, you're probably just going to try and save them, aren't you?
Oh yeah, of course,
as quick and as painlessly as you can. So,
but yeah, I mean, we've spoken a little about NPCs. I mean, the player characters will give you on that. So let's talk about the enemies.
Oh, right. Well, I'd love to
start with a show.
I'd love to chip in here a little bit. Like Golden Axe features 7 enemy types, 8 if you include the thieves. They're not really enemies because they don't attack you.
Someone's done the homework.
Oh, definitely. I don't think now. Again, one of the things that attracted me about Golden Axe at the time on the Mega Drive was I loved the diverse cast of enemies, and when we completed that game, and it'd give you a cast list of all the characters, and it'd give you an almost RPG sort of stat rating for every enemy colour and type, and obviously showing you who was stronger, and all had ranks and everything. It gave them a little bit of great personal character. But there is, like I say, 7 main enemy types. You've got 4 types of mooks, as you might call them, 3 types of boss characters. When I say mooks, I class the skeletons as mooks, but they could be considered sort of mini bosses sometimes as well. But anyway, your first 2 are almost like your Williams and Roper of Golden Axe. Williams and Roper being double dragon enemies. You've got the Haningas and the Longmoans. Now, these are clearly based on basic soldier types of the Conan films. Yeah. You know, the Longmoans are dressed in simple armour and carry spike clubs. The Haningas don't wear as much. They seem to love flexing the muscles and that, and they have spiked sort of circular maces and more like studded maces actually. And these characters both attack with a basic 3 swipe combination and a running attack. And in the arcade game, and only the arcade game if I remember right, it's not the Mega Drive, they also have a jumping attack as well. I said the characters do not have that move in the
I don't think I've ever seen
very rare they do it, but both have a jumping attack. Yes, it's it you rarely see it because they do it rare. It has no sound effect. They just jump up and do a quick swipe, but it's not on the Mega Drive. They can ride on the Bizarrians as well, which is something we can't forget to mention because that would be terrible. Which are I'll just diverse for 1 second, come back. But there's 3 types of dragons as well.
Bizarrians.
Yeah, called Bizarrians. They each have their own speciality. Golden Axe has these characters in place of like pick up weapons because you obviously already have a weapon. You don't need to set one in, and it makes logical sense. And they make a massive difference in the game. In fact,
2 of them do.
2, yeah. I mean, yes. There's 3 types. There's a character called the Chicken Leg, which is actually borrowed from Altered Beast. So I'm not even going to try and describe this thing. Look at the one in Altered Beast. And there's a single dragon sprite, which is split into 2 types called a blue and red dragon. And they have 2 different fire attacks, and both are beyond broken, as in beyond double dragon elbow broken. But they're not. Yeah. I mean, there's only 1 red dragon in the game, although you do get this dragon at the very beginning of the longest level in the game, I would say.
Yeah, and if you keep them for the entire level,
you've won that level straight out. But the blue dragon, although the blue dragon only has a short range flame attack, the range of the flame is still way longer to defeat any enemy from a distance, apart from Death Adder.
Especially if you like move below or above the enemy, so they have to walk into the flame as they're coming up to meet you.
I've found that even fighting the knights, if you allow one of the knights, the bitter knights, to just stand up and walk towards you head on your exact level, and you fire your flame, it'll still hit them and he'll never be able to get you. But Death Adder obviously uses ground magic. But anyway, I just want to mention the Bizarrians because it's very important. Going back to the enemies quick. So That's your Henningas and Longmourns. They both are low-level mooks, so you've got to watch out for. Each of them comes in 5 or 6 different colours, and they do have very real different move and attack characteristics. All the types do share the same 3 moves, but they have different health and the different stats as far as attack and movement. And the movement and attack speed on them can be so different that you will fight them as different characters. I mean, red Longmourns are fairly common. Red Longmourns and Henningas actually, but they're like very powerful. They're not the most powerful, but they're very
quicker,
powerful.
They're quicker than that, don't they?
They're quicker. They've got quite a bit of health, but they're the most powerful and a cool enemy in general. I thought was the dark zombie Henningas and Longmourns, which only appear. In fact, they're technically the boss of level 4, aren't they? Really?
Yeah.
Because you fight a group of these tough characters, and they have quite a bit of health.
Waves of them, yeah.
Yeah, and they're very, very fast and hard. They have more health than the red Henningas and Longmourns, but again, only on that level and more of exclusive boss. But that's your 2 basic mooks. You've got a next level up, which is the Zubaroka woman. Now, a Zubaroka is actually a lizard woman. Yep, and that's their overall title of the tribe.
I thought she was called the Amazon woman.
Oh, no. Well, you can call them
That's
Amazon.
what I used to call her.
But I found out that the actual name from the Japanese manual is Zubaroka.
Yeah.
And if that's how you pronounce it, anyway, I think I'm pronouncing it right. It is an English translation from a Japanese manual. In the arcade version, there are 3 types of these. There are actually 4 in the Mega Drive, but that's not important in a minute. And they have a green and a purple variety and also a red variety who's extremely the fastest moving enemy in the game, even faster than a skeleton. And when I say fast moving, I don't mean by running attack. I mean literal, just like she's running around the place. And they've got such a fast swing. Now, these do only have 2 attacks, so they don't have a jumping attack. So they've got a double swing with the axe, and they've got a running axe swing, which is the most powerful running attack in the game. It actually takes priority over every other enemy and character. So, although I'll not go too deep into the running attack priorities at the minute, I'll just say that like certain enemies, some characters can overcome and some can't. The giants, funny enough, would you believe, the fat giants, which I'll get to in a sec, their running attack has extremely low priority. And
I actually beat them with like...
Yeah, if I believe right, all 3 characters, possibly even Axe Battler, can beat them. If they both run at each other at the same time, I know Tyrus and Gilius definitely can, but the Zubaroka woman, she takes priority over everybody. But again, dangerous and also can ride the Bizarrians. The next level, which is sort of your middle boss character, if you want to call it, is the skeletons. Now, in the arcade, these come in 4 varieties as well. And they are, even the lowest variety is quick and dangerous. The skeletons' main disadvantage.
Absolutely hate fighting.
But they're very versatile fighters. I mean, they have so many different attacks. They've almost got, I'm not even going to mention all the attacks offhand right now, but they've got almost as much attacks as the main character. In fact, they even share the special spinning attack that both Tyrus and Axe Battler have. They even have that, which was, I don't believe it's on the Mega Drive version. I'm pretty sure it's not. But they can't ride the dragons, which is a little offset, but it's not that they really need them. Like I say, come in 4 varieties as well. And there is special mention of 1 variety, which is a dark skeleton, which is sort of like basically the skeleton version of the dark Longmourns and Henningas. But the little secret is here, and I didn't find this out in about 10 years after, I believe, owning maybe the arcade PCB, was that those skeletons only appear if you dawdle in a level. Golden Axe is an unusual beat 'em up in that it doesn't have a normal timer like Final Fight or Street to Rage or Double Dragon. So loitering around won't kill you, but loitering around Golden Axe will cause 2, always appear, 2 dark skeletons to appear. You have to wait exactly a minute, so it's not like you're not pushed. So it's more of a secret attack, a secret event, really, more of an Easter egg than an actual, isn't it? Or than more than a real time penalty.
They're hard,
and they are tough. You can easily blast them with magic. They only need a couple of knockdowns, but you can, with a little experiment only about 10 years ago, but you can actually have 16 of these skeletons on screen at a time, which is unheard of for the amount of sprites in the game, in a beat 'em up game. So there's a certain point in level 1, so you might want to try this if you haven't. Wait in the top section of level 1, there's a alcove like a cliff. Wait there for, it'll be 16 minutes, is it? No, 8 minutes. 8 minutes actually. So sit and wait, and every minute you wait, a pair of skeletons appear up to 16, and then try and walk to the end of the level with all 16 skeletons and just see how the game gets fucked up. But it's great. And the game handles it well and doesn't crash, but it is funny how it handles this sort of event that it's not really expected to handle. So I thought it was cool. Anyway, that's last of the 4 basic enemy types. We're going to now move on to the first of the 3 boss types, and all 3 types are extremely cool. You've got fat giants, and they come in 3 varieties as well. You've got the Bad Brothers, which is like just one of my favourite characters of all time. Just the thought of these two brothers just running around the countryside, just beating people up. Because that's what it looks like. You go at the end of the level and they're standing there laughing at you. And it's a nice little character sort of quirk, you know, and like these are bad guys and that. They're clearly having fun, you know what I mean? I always loved it. They don't make any actual noise, but the shoulders are shaking and they're very big guys, you know, it's great. They're very easy to beat, like they're slow and they have quite a bit of health, but they're slow, and the actual weapon attacks are quite slow as well. But you are fighting them as a pair, and you've usually got a couple of lower level Hennings and Longbones in there as well.
So when you first see them, you're like, Jesus.
Yeah, you see they have massive spikes and look great. But their set of attacks, they've got a downward swing of their massive hammers. They've got a massive warhammer mallet type thing. They've got a sideways swing with the hammer, which is very, very rare and unusual. You've got to approach them in a certain way for them to do that, and it's the only version they do that on. So, you know, if you're interested in looking at move sets of enemy characters and that, there's one to look for. They have a kick, just they'll kick you and take you down. They can throw you, they can pick you up and grab you and throw you, which is lethal because there's certain, like I said, generally speaking, in Golden Axe in the arcade, you're fairly safe with a lot of running attacks. But going back to say Axe Battle as an example, if he runs at these guys and does a shoulder charge, he'll often get grabbed mid-flight and flung in the air.
Up in the air, right?
And they said their final attack of their 5, which I think is quite a lot of attacks for a large boss character, is their massive running charge, which you see a big meaty shoulder coming towards you, you know, to get out of the way. But anyway, so first 3 boss types. There's 3 colours. Bad Brothers, I said, which are green, the lowest level and the weakest. You've got, in the arcade, there are only 2 actually. Sorry, only 2, not 3. And the second of the 2 is General Heartland, who's the red one, who isn't a boss in himself, but he's actually the personal bodyguard to Death Adder in the final level, and he puts up a good fight. Same set of moves, obviously, very fast for his size, so fast movement and fast attack speed. So usually when you get to that point in the game, you're probably better off using magic, because otherwise you're going to be fighting 2 large boss characters, potentially a skeleton or 2, or in the very least, red Hennings and Longbones. So it's a tough fight. The next of the boss varieties, which I would say is maybe actually my favourite. I've always found the knights, the bitter knights, look so cool. They're clearly based on a European design. I mean, they're quite generic, in fact, you know, to look at. They just simply are knights, with the only unusual feature being that they've got downward facing horns, which does look quite menacing and odd, but, you know, quite unusual. Like, it reminds us of something from Beastmaster, to be honest. Like, you know, if you've seen that film, you might understand where I'm coming from. Or the face down in the arcade, but up in the Mega Drive. There's a weird one for you,
yeah. It is a bit odd.
And they come in 2 varieties as well. The first one is a lieutenant, or lieutenant to you in America, Lieutenant Bitter, who is the boss of level 3. And that whole boss fight is probably my favourite, if not my second favourite. Just the fact that it's an epic battle. He comes charging out of a beer garden, doesn't he? A beer garden. So you move the end of the level, and there's some low to mid-level Hennings and Longbones, including the only gold Longbone in the game, which I spotted a while back.
Well, while we're on the subject of beer gardens, you might notice throughout Golden Axe, there's a lot of references to alcohol.
Only in the Mega Drive version, I remember. Only in the Mega Drive, and that's in the cast of characters here. Yeah, well, I don't really know what the names, if the knights and characters are actually named in the arcade. Well, that goes back to the Zubaroka women, because their names are Lemonade, Gruzier on the Mega Drive, which is a dark variant only available on the Mega Drive.
Jesus. Yeah.
There's Strawbeer, and then there's Storchenier, which is named after a very expensive Russian vodka. Yeah. So, you know, so there's definitely I think you're close with the cheese one now, but I did Google these at one point, and I could have sworn, it's close. Maybe the Japanese one, probably couldn't spell it right, but we didn't know how to at the time. But yeah, there is a lot of beer references. So it's
favourite type of cheese when he's down his bottle of Storchenier.
I know for a fact Henninger is definitely a real type of lager, I think.
Yeah, I think it is.
And even though I don't remember what we found from Longmorn, but it will be. It just sounds like a type of alcoholic drink, doesn't it? It sounds like a form of mead or something. But anyway, with a knight character, so you've got 2 of those. You've got Lieutenant Bitter, best fight in the game, maybe. Very easy to beat if you've got one of the dragons. So I actually like to not get the dragon or throw the dragon away at that point, so I can fight him properly, you know. He doesn't actually have a massive amount of health, but he's quite tough. And the knights have only 3 forms of attack. The only enemy in the game actually doesn't have a charge move at all, like a charging.
Yeah, like a run attack.
There is Death Adder does count as well, but I'll get that in a second. But they don't have that, which is it is a disadvantage for them. But they're so quick on the feet. Both varieties, there is 2. Both varieties are quick on the feet. Not as quick as the Lemonade women, the red Zubaroka woman, but still very quick for the size. And they have a long range sword swipe,
really long range, like the sword.
It's probably longer than Death Adder's axe swipe, or about the same, maybe his eye. And they've got a side swipe of the shield, so it's a great sort of counter if you get too close. But they can also pick you up and throw you as well, which is exclusive to the arcade, not on the Mega Drive. Just like the throw that the bad guys have, the fat guys have as well. They don't do that on the Mega Drive. But anyway, the second type of these characters is the Colonel Bitters, and the twin Colonels will always face you just before the final fight on level 5. So it's like basically the gatekeepers, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. And this is a tough battle. Actually, it is if you've got maybe Axe Battler and Tyrus both at full magic and no dragon, I would probably suggest using it if you're actually paying money to play. Obviously, if you've got the dragon, the blue dragon, which is available, they're a cakewalk, but it is quite a narrow area where you fight them in. There's usually still like 1 or 2 Hennings and Longbones hanging around.
Yeah,
so
I like that bit, though, you can knock them off the edge to the left.
Yeah, you can. There's little secret areas where you can knock characters off the edge here and there, and if you manoeuvre them with a bit fancy footwork to the left side, you can get them to fall off with a little push from the fire breath. But anyway, so Colonel Bitter, not an actual boss, but a little bit faster, a little bit more meatier than Lieutenant Bitter, although has the same health. But when you fight 2 of them, you have to be careful. But now we'll move on to Big Bad himself, Death Adder. Death Adder is, as we've already discussed, Death Adder's just a legend and nutter at the same time.
Yeah, he's a big old boy, and he looks like a fantastic sprite work on him.
Oh, that's great. I mean, a little bit of his design looks actually very similar to the fat guys. Like they have the same sort of armoured skirt, and shoulder guards, sort of very similar. Gauntlet, armlets. The design is similar between those 2 characters. But in fact, so similar that on the Mega Drive actually used part of the same sprites. You'll notice, haven't you? The sprite design that actually take his lower sprite from the 2 characters and just use it.
Cartridge size, man.
That's it, yeah. So, and it took us a while to notice that. But he's a great fight. Death Adder's big thing is that he's got so much health. I mean, he has 2.5 times the actual health of the next toughest characters, which are General Heartland, the 2 Bitter Knights, all of which would take. I'll not break down the wet mechanics at the minute, but they would.
Would you go as far to say he's a cheap end boss?
No. I would say Death Adder is a easy end boss. He
always seems to kick my arse though, like with his magic, because he keeps spamming magic attacks if you're too far away from him.
I would say Deathbringer is a cheap end boss, which we'll get to.
We haven't gone to him.
That's a cheap end boss.
Ignore that.
I personally think Death Adder is quite easy to beat. I mean, he only has 2 moves, actually. He only has 2 attack moves. He has an axe swing, using the golden axe, which does as much damage as the knight's sword, which is lethal, of course, takes a full bar off, but isn't nothing that you can avoid. You can actually definitely planes Tyrus and Gilius. You can move past him up and down on the planes and he'll not be able to hit you. His second more dangerous attack, as Mark's saying, though, is his magic spell.
Yeah.
Now, it's nowhere near as potent as even the lowest level spell of Axe Battler or Gilius Unhead, really. It does take 1 full health bar, but it fires out a single, what'd you say, like a ground bolt? What
yeah,
we call like a mini quake.
All along the ground,
and you can just jump over it, and it is quite easy to avoid now. But it does come out fairly quick, although you can plan for it. But that is his two moves.
You can jump over that. You can
exactly, yeah.
You can move up and down far enough away from the screen. It does track you.
He does have the ability to run. He does have the ability to run as well. And he actually runs with the axe sort of down. It looks like he can attack you with it, but he doesn't. He just runs about the arena just to get a little bit more footwork, mobility, and a bit of cardio in there, I suppose, as well. But he doesn't have a charge attack, so that's always worth noticing. But I mean, the thing about Death Adder is when you finally beat him, the axe flies up in the air and hits him in the chest. It's great, like massive screams, spout of blood,
It's impressive when you kill him. It's fun. You always remember the first time you killed Death Adder.
Is it worth, Martin, mentioning a few extra enemies on the Mega Drive here now, while we're talking about enemies or what?
I mean, we can always come back into the arcade one. So
we'll do this because it is a little bit appropriate. Now, there's no new enemy types at all in the Golden Axe on the Mega Drive. There isn't, but there is a few extra colour variants, and they do make a difference. Some of them very importantly, as you'll see. Obviously, just skimming over quickly with the long ones and hingers.
I tell you what, before we do that, why don't we quickly go through the levels on the arcade, right? Because we'll talk, and then we can move on.
Move on the new eye on the end. Yeah, sure.
Tell them about the enemies in there while you're on. So, refresh. Tell us if I'm wrong, but level 1, you're basically in Amazon.
Well, level 1 is the wilderness. There's 5 levels to Golden Axe in the arcade.
So it's basically like a fairly flat level apart from one raised platform.
Yeah,
nice.
It doesn't try to be too unusual or too big. It's what you'd expect, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not, it's not like you're starting the level in a massive rampant battlefield or something like weird, But it's still well remembered in its theme, because obviously the music theme's so well remembered. Some people would only play maybe a couple of minutes and give up or lose a credit. It's got a nice little, like I say, it's got a nice little like step area, like a raised platform where you can get a thief and get a couple of spells there.
Yep.
It's not a massive level, but at the same time, it's respectable.
It takes probably 2-3 minutes.
And more, and the boss,
5 or 6 waves of enemies tops
That's
before the boss.
And it is a nice ease. It's nice to ease you in. Like it does give you the lowest level. Again, going back to the colour schemes of the enemies, it does give you the lowest levels to contend with, just like a training and a warm exercise. It throws a purple Haninga in there at one point, who takes a little bit more to kill than like the regular silvers and that. But other than that, though, I mean, the toughest enemy in there, apart from the bosses, is probably the Storchinair woman.
Yeah.
So you
fight roughly
halfway, like a simple midway boss. You want to call it.
Chicken leg there that she comes in on, which you can get if you want to. But personally, I avoid it.
Now level 2, though, is very iconic, isn't it?
Yes.
The Turtle Village.
Yeah. So level 2, you start up at top where you leave kind of the first level. You drop down. It's like a long sweeping. At first, you don't realise it looks like a sweeping path, but
that's what's so cool about it. You do know what it is, because each level gets introduced with these fantastic looking hand drawn maps, and it does tell you what the level is, and it does give you quite a detailed description of what the level is and where you go next, doesn't it? But when it's, say, Turtle Village, you might be telling yourself, "Oh, is it just the name of the village?" You don't realise that you're actually on the back of a giant turtle, and that's. I mean, personally, and I always like to look for inspirations when we're talking about these games, and I think that inspiration may have come from Stephen King, actually, because Stephen King talks about the turtle, or even Discworld, Terry Pratchett. He talks about turtles as being like actually a land that people live on, and that, and I wonder if there's influence there. It might be, there might not be, but it's a nice thought that it could be. But the level itself, though, it's quite tough. It's quite tough, actually, because it's not fighting to throw its toughest enemies at you in the first area. You're already facing some red Haningas and Longbones, which I would say are the second tier of characters, of enemy levels as far as colour goes.
Well, in fairness, there's not a lot of game, is there? So you've got to try and get these enemies in pretty soon, I think.
Oh, no, it's well done. It's good to do. You've got a cliff as well. Obviously, you've got to be careful you don't fall off the cliff, and you can knock the enemies off there if you prefer. But it's just you're in an area already where you just need to be wary where you step, because you will lose a full life, as you would in most games at the time. The level has a lot of villages. It's called Turtle Village. It's got a lot of villagers who are trying to escape the purge, basically, of the pillage of this massive army of evil Death evil warriors, It's the first of the 5 levels that doesn't feature a proper boss battle in the normal sense. It doesn't have a single big enemy or a pair of big enemies.
Waves of enemies.
That's it. Well, put you against. The thing is, even though it does feature one new enemy, as you say, in the form of the skeleton.
Yeah.
But I've always found the skeleton not be too tough anyway. The real challenge on that level comes from the Lemonier women, and there's 3, if I remember right. It could be 2, and because they're so fast and that one's already on a blue dragon anyway, you've got quite a nasty fight. But because they all don't have a great lot of health, if you've got like at least 4 magic levels, you'll wipe them out in one shot, But there is 2 waves, so there's a second wave of enemies come. It's not a tough fight in itself.
Especially if you get the blue dragon.
Yeah, well, that's it.
You can make mincemeat out of them, basically.
Yeah, it's a great level. The next level, probably my favourite level, to be honest. Like, I've always loved the Turtle Bridge, level 3. I thought that was fantastic. It is, as the name implies, it has a bridge, which is broken, so you have to either jump across or run and charge over, which is much better and safer.
Yeah, just run and tackle over. It's not like double dragon levels of difficulty where you've got a time to
have the pixel perfect. But one of the best fights in the game, in fact, probably for me personally, the best fight in the game, and you might not expect me to say this, is the start of level 3. It's epic. You fight about 8 or 9 enemies, all coming at you in multiple waves, and there's all the different types of dragon are there. So you've got a pick of your chicken leg, blue, and red dragons. The only red dragon in the game, by the way. And then you're fighting multiple Haningas and Longbones. There's at least 1 Zubaroka there. There's all at about 2 or 3 different power levels as well. You fight about 8 or 9 enemies in that one level, and it's in that one area. Sorry, and it's not available on some other versions, and that was a little bit of a loss, because it's a long and it's a fun level. Once you've got over the bridge, you're going to come to a door, and by all means, you really need to step back from this door because it's going to burst open, and 2 people are going to come out and they're going to be very angry to see you because you killed them in level 1. It's the Bad Brothers again. And
reincarnated.
I mean, they're exactly the same as before. They don't have any extra strength or any moves or anything else. And you should, if you're a beginner, be having at least one of the dragons by now. So definitely a blue, if not the red. So you'll kill them easy. But if you don't have those dragons handy, you've got quite a narrow. If you remember, it's quite a narrow area to fight on.
You haven't got much room to move up and down.
It's possible if you use your footwork to get them onto the left side, and if you can hit them in a certain way, you can make them fall onto the bridge that's still on screen. And if you can hit them again as they get up, you can knock them off that bridge, even though it's completely off screen, killing them instantly. But it's quite a tough little fight, actually. You said if you don't have the dragons or magic, or you don't have any experience. Well, anyway, mid-level boss battle, and then maybe the second epic battle in the game, if not the level, is when you move further on. That's when we were spoken about earlier. Actually, you fight Lieutenant Bit of the boss, and that's with his group of cronies as well. And like I say, there's quite a few thieves here as well, so you hit them to get the magic pots. And you've got a lot of magic, so if you want to wipe all these characters out, pretty much can very quickly. But to me, it's wasting it because it's such a good fight. It's better to dismount for the dragon. If you're playing it without money and just have fun, just go at it. The 2 years if you're playing 2-player and beat the crap out of them. So
one important thing just to probably mention, the magic. Once you've got a full magic bar, any more magic pots you collect are just wasted. It doesn't go any further than filling the bar up.
Yeah.
So
try and avoid picking them up. You do pick them up if you get knocked down, don't you?
Yeah.
You'll automatically pick them up, so be careful.
So it's
better not to waste them.
Try not to avoid them where you can when you've got a full bar.
I'm going to let you talk about the Fiend's Path because it's such an iconic level of any game. I think
So I mean, Fiend's Path. You start off level 4. You start off. You fight some red enemies. Some of the last of the game. Yeah. You've got a good bit where you're jumping up on a higher ledge.
Yeah, there's about 3 levels, isn't there?
And I like personally jumping up and knocking the enemies back or knocking them down and having to make.
It's quite a strategic part of that beginning, isn't it? There's quite a lot you can do or be done to. You can get on that second ledge and then they start hitting you, or you can throw one onto the ledge, then knock them up further and that. So you've got their feet under your blade, can't you? So it's quite a good little fight. That
once you get up from there, it's you're on the back of an eagle at this point, aren't you? So you wouldn't know. Yeah, and the eagle's flying because you can see by the clouds going past.
Yeah,
it looks good. But there's plenty of places here as well to knock enemies off screen, so that does simplify things a little bit. You fight quite a few skeletons, quite a few of the dark Henningers and Longbones on this level.
Skeletons on this level it's their level. It's the undead level, but the music even's creepy. I mean, it's all it's like when you listen to music, you can tell the influence. Yeah, in fact, this level is obviously clearly inspired by Jason and the Argonauts.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the skeletons in general from Golden Axe look like they've been ripped from Jason and the Argonauts, but this level here with the style and the music and the movement of the characters and that, you just feel the influence straight away, and it's such a cool thing to spot that. But yeah, there's quite a lot, and what's great about the skeletons, they don't just wander on screen. Sega doesn't do that, Golden Axe doesn't do that. I'm not going to have the skeletons wander on screen. They come up from the ground, exactly like in Jason and the Argonauts, and it looks so cool. But as Mark's saying, and as I mentioned earlier as well, when you move on a bit further, you begin to fight the Dark Henningers and Longbones now. You actually fight one or two before the music changes to the boss theme, but they are technically a boss fight, really. I mean, they're much tougher than the generic battle at the end level 2, and they take a lot of health. They have a lot of health. They're very fast. They've got a quick attack, and you generally could be fighting 3 enemies at once here, which could be at least 2 of them and a skeleton, and it's quite hard. It's quite hard. I mean, if you've got a load of magic, you could blast them.
You can juggle in a way between 2 enemies and stuff, but at a beginner level on Golden Axe, you're going to get your arse handed quite a bit here. These are the toughest enemies, There's
a way. I mean, there's definitely a few techniques that we've learned. Enemies. But there's a few techniques we've definitely learned between us. And I mean, I know that a lot of people know that.
Trap them at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, and use just
like a special.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second, won't we? But that's level 4 in a nutshell. I'll mention level 5 if it's all right, because it's another fantastic level.
Yeah, go for it.
It starts off quite multi-tiered, and it's only now that you begin to realise what you're on the back of, because the one good thing about level 4 is, unlike Turtle Village, it doesn't tell you exactly what you're on. You don't really find out until the start of level 5 that you actually were on the back of a giant eagle. I mean, it looks like you can see feathers and you can see clouds going past, but it's not clear. Unlike Turtle Village, it's a bit more clear. And you see the turtle, just going back, you do see the turtle's head in the bridge of level 3, which looks good. We are talking about an actual turtle's head, I believe. But anyway, so when the battlefield, the final battle, and it is It's great. It starts off with multiple skeletons coming up from the ground, and like I say, you're on a multi-tiered area anyway, which drops down to a bridge, and you can use that to your advantage. And it's good. It's a good bit of fun here. Yeah, get on that bridge, and there's a Eliminator, a red woman there with the first and only blue dragon on the level, and the last blue dragon last dragon we had, in fact.
Yeah.
And she, if you get that, if you're a beginner or you're playing on money and you want to get a good score, I would advise getting it. So some people do, some people don't. But anyway, it's the most powerful asset you can have on that level. But you fight this character, and then there's a lot of red long ones and Henningas, quite a few actually on here, about 4 or 5. But that's then that after beating them, you'll take on the 2.
Did you mention the eagle's head?
Oh, yeah. Well, just as you get on the bridge, you see it's animated as well. The eyes moving and everything. It looks so cool.
Great.
But you actually see the eagle's head that you wear. From the eagle that you're actually on, so that looks great. Just because if you didn't realise that, you'd know that by now. Like I say as well. So, and it is a castle, by the way. You're leading from the back end of the Fiend's Path level, and it's basically the eagles landed at the castle, not the gates, but sort of what would you call it? Would you call it where the drawbridge area was? Maybe?
Yeah,
that's what that bridge looks like. I've always thought it's not clear. It's like it's high up. It looks like it's actually landed, like it's in the sky, or it's just up a height like a tower. Like Orthanc out of Lord of the Rings or something. Not Orthanc, But anyway, that's you fight the 2 Red Knights, the Colonel Bitters, beat them, and then move on into Death Adder's courtyard. Well, it wasn't originally Death Adder's courtyard, but isn't it now since he took it over?
The best comparison that I've got, if you're familiar with Double Dragon, it's like moving on the red carpet, isn't it?
It is. It's exactly similar, that. Yes, sorry.
To that scene at the end, and then you fight a selection of couple of normal red enemies. Yeah,
there's about 2 or 3 red Hennings and Longbones there, but General Hartland's your first major
big fat guy.
There. I would generally take him out as soon as you can. He's only got as much health as the other giant, like the other normal boss characters, and they don't actually have that much health. So even a quick blast of magic and a few swings and that will usually finish him off. Where Death Adder has a lot of health.
Yeah.
And it's better to get him out of the equation early on, because Death Adder tends to like skeletons, and he has a few of those defend them.
Yeah,
and they take quite a bit of health as well. Because
they just follow you everywhere. They stick to you like pretty.
Don't be fighting the use magic on that section if you go it. And that's why the thieves in that area try and stockpile the magic and avoid going near it. And that tend to work by just picking up 1 pot at a time and firing that 1 pot at a time, as opposed to building it up. Now, Gilius actually has a little advantage here, because his level 2 magic, he only needs 1 pot for level 1, and 1 pot extra will lead him into his level 2 use. So you can pick up 2, but if you pick up 3, you'll waste the 3rd pot, because you need 2 pots to clear level 2 bar to go into level 3, if that makes sense. So you're better off, instead of picking up 4 pots, you could just pick up 2 and do level 2, and then do that again.
Which is
you're clicking a pot every time, aren't you?
I think isn't the level dictates how many like knockdowns or something like that.
I've always felt, I've never really calculated properly, but I've always felt that 1 single magic potion hit counts as 1 single sort of like jump and swipe, which is not extremely powerful, but it's more powerful than a running attack. I think the running attack's the weakest single move that knocks the enemy down. So just a regular jumping attack is 1 magic pot, I believe, or thereabouts, because when I've done a rough calculation before, just a very rough one, that's what's killed an enemy before, and I've looked at how many attacks it makes. So, not very powerful, but if you've got like 6 or 7 of these, you're doing quite a bit of damage,
Yeah. So, this is the bit where you wanted to go into about the Mega Drive version, isn't it? Because you're essentially, on the arcade, you'll kill Death Adder, the King and Queen will drop down, because, by the way, I forgot to mention the King and Queen have been kidnapped by Death Adder. Not that you know about this until the end of the game.
So you don't find this out, you wouldn't. And in fact, so we'll probably put it at the most appropriate part of the whole
because it's
segment.
The first time you find out about it in the game. So the King and Queen drop down, and they're thankful for being rescued, and then it's game over in the arcade. But in the Mega Drive,
don't you always think it was quite like lethal, like health and safety and that, how these 2 get dropped from the ceiling. Basically, the load down, he's upside down.
He is,
but he's upside down. And he's just dropped on his head, and it's like, you've dropped him from about 8 foot up.
Uses his head to break the fall.
Yeah, and he's grateful. He's like, cheers for breaking my head. It's like, even her, she could have done angles in if she'd landed wrong. She's got high heels on, I just thought, weak heels. So,
but why don't you tell them?
Well, I will, and I want to keep this brief, but I can't. I probably can't, because this is the segment. This is the section that, the moment even that blew me away for life with games. And I mean that from the pit of my heart. Like, I remember at my mates, I was at a friend's house at the time, who introduced us to the Mega Drive. He had a Japanese Mega Drive, and he had Golden Axe Japanese version. And I must have still played the arcade or seen someone play the arcade. I think I had seen someone play and complete the arcade version before this, but I'd never put time into it myself. So I knew after beating Death Adder, that was the end. So I remember putting down my controller and just going to like sit back and chill. And he says, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, we've completed it. And he was like, he looked at us in a funny way and gave us a weird smile. And it was like, pick up your controller. So I did. And the next thing I know, we're going to a whole new level, a level which I just didn't know existed. And that was like a horrible dungeon. It was
like, it's good the way to do it, because in the arcade, they're like, oh, thank you for saving me, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, there's dialogue. Yeah,
but
there's
then in the Mega Drive one, thank you for saving me, but I think he's taking orders from someone behind that door or something like that. And it's like, oh, this is a bit different. And then, like Glenn says, you go through the door and you're into this whole new level 6.
And the level's fantastic, isn't it? It's like a really good long level. It might be the best, the most, like, yeah, it might be the longest level in the game, I would say. It's a lot to fight.
It reminds us of Streets of Rage bridge level as such, but with more falls. And it doesn't look like an urban bridge, but it's like, it's what it reminds us of, where there's places to fall down and stuff like that.
Well, there's a lot more places than there has been in the entirety of the rest of the game, and the first jump that's there, you can't just get over it like you could have if you wanted to with the bridge in level 3 of the arcade game or Mega Drive. You've got to use a running attack to get over. There's no new enemy types, like I already said, but there is some new enemy variations here on the ones that exist. So you've got, not till the end of the level actually, but you fight the bronze things and long ones. Now, these actually have the most health in the game on the Mega Drive version. In fact, they have as much as each Bad Brother. They're not very hard to beat, but they're just very resilient. So they're still fairly slow, but they've got a fairly high attack speed, if I remember right. But they're all solid green. It's just like weird to see these new characters that were in the arcade game. But the biggest one for that is this level has its own boss, and it's General Bitter. So it's 2 gold knights now. Yeah. And they're no different from the Red Knights, the current bit. And in fact, the overall fight could be considered a little bit easier because you've got a much bigger area. You've got a much bigger area to move in, and you can use the exact same technique you did on the Colonels, which is maneuver to the left and knock them into the pit nap. Yeah. But again, it was just cool to fight like a new, and I mean, at that time in 1989, just seeing a different colour on the same enemy that wasn't in the arcade game would blow your mind, just like Mortal Kombat. Seeing Reptile for the first time, you think, Christ, well, he's just another ninja. He's green, but that would have blown your mind back in 1989, 1990, and it was just so cool. But obviously the biggest twist was to come because you kill them 2 characters, and you move into a chamber, into a single screen level, and you're fighting a character called Deathbringer, and this is actually Death Adder's boss on the Mega Drive. So there's a man above Death Adder. I'll also mention another character as well for the end of this. But this guy is, when Mark was talking about broken bosses, overpowered bosses,
cheap.
Yes. This guy is quite, I mean, he's not, once you know how to play in that and you've been playing a while, he's easy really, but he will generally hit you, so there is cheap moments in this fight. I mean, he moves and attacks in exactly the same way as Death Adder initially, so he's got the axe swing. In place of his single electric spark that flies across the ground that Death Adder has on both versions, arcade Mega Drive, he fires out a set of 6. And they're near impossible to dodge. And generally, you never dodge them. In fact, the best way to dodge them is to just fire magic, if you've got it. But chance of you get hit by this, right, then you'll stand up and you'll get hit by another because it sort of doubles back on itself. And you'll probably say to yourself, Christ, I took 2 hits. How bad could it get? Much, much worse, believe us.
Because he'll then fire his proper magic.
Oh, yes. One thing Deathbringer has that no other boss has in any of the other versions of Golden Axe 1 is he has his own special magic attacks. He has, they're just rip-offs of the magics of the main characters, but he uses these, and he won't use them all the time, which is fair, but he will use them in certain situations, and when he's hit you with a spark, he'll then fire a dragon. He'll fire a purple version of Tyrus Flair's dragon magic. And if I believe right, this takes about 3 blocks of health off or something. So generally speaking...
more than half your life bar.
Well, if you did put up 5 bars, if you had 5 bars, you're probably dead. And if you had 3, you're definitely dead. You've lost a life. But as well, just going back to his other attacks, like I said, he does also have access to at least 1 spell from Axe and 1 spell from Gilius. And the way he activates these is if he hits you with the Axe. So if he hits with his green axe, not the golden axe, if he hits you with that axe, he then activates one of these spells, and they're not as powerful as the dragon, but they still take about another block off you. So you're still guaranteed to lose at least 2 blocks of health off just a basic attack. But there's another little twist as well. He has 2 bodyguards. He only has 2. He has 2 bodyguards, and what they are is skeletons, and they're the most powerful skeletons in the game. In fact, Deathbringer, is as powerful as Death Adder when it comes to health.
Yeah.
The skeletons each have twice as much. For many years, I'm going to say about 15 years, me, him, and many more believed these 2 skeletons to be invincible. And they're not, but they're as invincible as you ever want them to be. They take twice, I've double checked this, they have exactly twice as much health as Deathbringer. So if you want to kill them, you'll be there for quite a while. You'll nearly always kill Deathbringer first because he'll get in the way just as much as
how you double check that, but it sounds incredibly boring.
It was just lashing them to pieces basically until they finally died, and it did die because I thought they'd never die. So if you got them with, like, as we called it, the mega pile driver, they'd take 16. He'd take 8. You know what I mean? But but that's the levels in a nutshell. But the ending's different from Golden Axe in the arcade. Arcade's got the great. That's the tune. Where they're coming out of the arcade, all the characters come out of the arcade machine, and they're all happy and having fun and that, and
running along the street now.
Yeah,
it's a great ending.
Thank you for playing in that. That doesn't happen in Mega Drive, sadly, which is a bit good, sad, because I would have liked it still to be there. I don't know why it's not. Instead, it gives you a cast list of the enemies, which is just a static black screen with the sprites of the enemies and the stats. But that is actually more interesting to me in some ways because it was cool to get that lore, if you want to call it that. And then it has like a credits ending where it shows you a Longmorn playing, would you call it tennis?
Yeah,
playing cricket or tennis, with Axe Battler and that when he throws them there. It's more cricket than it, or baseball. Baseball, I think it was, cricket, tennis, you know what I mean? But anyway, so it's not that little bit there, that segment, I didn't find that as entertaining as the arcade's original ending, but it is still good, and it makes Golden Axe a fine package. While still on the subject of enemies and levels, quickly, Golden Axe does have a sub-mode, it has 2. Can we talk about these? I think we should mention these. You get a beginner mode, which is only 3 levels, which I thought was a nice little touch for. I mean, the game is quite easy anyway, but this little mode is nice to play. It's level 1 to 3. It has all the regular enemies that you'd fight. If I remember right, I think the Bizarrians are missing. I think there's no dragons.
No, I think there is.
I can't remember right now. It's been such a long time. There's something missing. I can't remember what it is. There's definitely something missing on one level.
Difficulty.
Difficulty. But the enemies are no easier or harder, funny enough. Enemies are no easier or harder. It's just the length of the game.
Yeah.
And one specific difference as well, which again I thought was very cool because it introduced another new character. But at the end of level 3, when you're waiting for Lieutenant Bitter to come bursting out of those Bay Garden doors, he doesn't. Instead, Death Adder Jr. comes out.
Oh, yes.
Death Adder Jr. is a blue version of Death Adder, and he's got exactly the same health. No, or has he? No, he hasn't. That's a lie. He has half the health. He's got the same amount as, like, say, Colonel Bitter or General Hartland. He takes 4 Mega Power Drive. He's got half the health of them. But he's got his own little quirks. I mean, he's, generally speaking, when it comes to actual physical fighting, he's tough as the regular Death Adder. And he's got the axe swing like Death Adder, but he has a new magic spell, which is quite pathetic, but it's his spell, He fires a lightning ball across the screen, which is extremely easy to avoid. Basically, if you get away from him, you get some distance between you, he throws this lightning ball at you. And like I say, it's quite easy to avoid. You don't have to jump or anything. It's just a case of moving up or down. But he's deliberately there as just a little sort of like training boss. And the fact that, again, it's a character that's not in the arcade, a character that they didn't need to put in, it's just a nice little bit of effort. I would like to talk a bit more at length about the Duel, which is a fantastic bonus mode. Again, these bonus modes this is 1990 we're talking about,
for the Mega Drive release,
Yeah, to have these extra modes in was just fantastic. The Duel is a 12-stage battle where in single player you take on a set of various different enemies on every level. The enemy types are set, but it mixes and matches types of enemies that you wouldn't have normally fought, and they do get progressively harder, culminating with the battle with the 2 General Bitters in Battle 12. You can play it in 2 players, so it's also a very early example of a versus battle game, which in 1990 game was pre-Street Fighter 2. I mean, it's nothing to write home about, but it's playable and it's fun. And to be fair, it's fairly balanced because even though there's no magic, and obviously some characters are a bit more powerful than others, you can take some advantage of what you've got. So I don't remember us ever really having a massive advantage over who was playing who, we just sort of went at it. So, you know, it's great. It's great there. Anyway, I maybe moved into Golden Axe on the Mega Drive a bit much over.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's you know, it's a good game. It's a brilliant conversion. And one thing I quickly touch on the controls. I mean, the arcade Mega Drive is the same. The share 3-button setup. You've got an attack, you've got a jump, and you've got a magic button. You know, as I mentioned before, you double tap to run. You can unleash a running attack from that, or you can, if you jump while you're running, you can do a high jump, which if you then hold attack straight after, you can do what we've called the Mega Pile Driver, which is
we don't know its real name, but it probably does have a name. Definitely by now.
It's the most damaging move in the game if you land it, but it can be tricky to land. You know, there's not much really to say about controls. The one thing I would like to say before we really get into any other conversions, just an observation that I've had about the arcade version for quite a while. I suppose it's really based around the difficulty, but I see Golden Axe as an arcade game as a failure. And the reason I say because it's probably a compliment, actually. But Golden Axe for me is one of those games where you can get good at it. And when you get good at it, you can finish it with 1 credit without fairly easily.
In fact, it's easier than Double Dragon, because Double Dragon, which I also consider arcade failure,
cheap moments.
Yeah, it has the cheap moments in the last level. And obviously, it's very hard to time them right, you know, and not getting where Golden Axe has no real cheap moments or traps like that. So. And obviously the Bizarrians are even more broken than the Double Dragon elbow was.
So to elaborate more on what I've said, if you think of games like you know, Turtles, for example, or you know, insert other Konami fighter here,
where they played to take credits. Crime Fighters 1 even. There's a good example.
There's a lot out there. You can take your pick. They're all designed to just, you know,
suck money.
Which
it should be. Which it should be when that's the design of the game.
It's an arcade game. That's the whole point, isn't it? Where, like I say, Golden Axe, if you're a good enough player, you know, you might do it in 1 or 2 credits, and that's what, 15 minutes, 20 minutes on a cabinet.
Tops says with time. I think I timed myself the best time. I think it did was 7 minutes.
In one sense, like I say, it's a failure as an arcade machine. But for me, I think that's a great thing, because it gives you plenty of reason to want to stick a credit in that machine and play it, because you know you're going to do well if you're decent enough at it. To
me as well, it also gives the arcade PCB a lot of life, because if you're in this day and age now, when you're owning that or playing it on MAME for free, you're playing a game that you're enjoying. You just really enjoy it.
It's a fun game that you can play it and be skillful.
Exactly, where the focus of most arcade games being more about getting you to spend money, means that once you've really, a lot of people would play the arcade game just to get brownie points, just to see how quick they could finish it or how little money they could spend. But were they really having that much fun?
Yeah, I think that you could do like a speed run of Golden Axe. You know, I would imagine there probably is out there speed runs of Golden Axe recorded.
It's such a short game as well. If you fluffed it, you could easily just go out, try to start a game. You know.
But should we quickly mention a few of the conversions before we tie things up?
I'd like to mention a few. I mean, to be fair, Golden Axe has been converted and ported to multiple consoles and platforms through the years.
Just about everything out there.
Yeah, I mean, there'll be versions I don't even know about. I bet, you know, there was obscure versions of Streets of Rage I never knew about. But anyway, I would like to touch on a few. I mean, I'm not even going to talk too much about the Mega Drive now at this point, because we've integrated in the whole segment, to be honest.
Yeah.
And it is to me and him, it's the sister or brother to the arcade game. It's like it's the absolute companion, isn't it? It's a companion version, you know, so it's not even separate. I want to mention the Master System version because it's quite respectable, even though it's not too well received because it's a single player game. You could have probably done more in some ways. I mean, you've only got one character who's Axe Battle, who's called Tarek for some reason. He does have access to all 3 magic types. The game is based more clearly on the arcade version, so you've only got the 5 levels. So if you were someone who'd come away from the Mega Drive version, which is likely, and then you just got the Master System version out of interest, you might have been expecting the longer game, and sadly that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But to be fair, what is there is very playable. I find a very playable game.
It's a good game.
It's well done in my own opinion. It could have been made differently, and whether that would be a good thing or bad thing is down to your opinion, really. Definitely need to mention the PC Engine version. It is a unique conversion of the whole game. It takes the basic arcade game, as in you've got the 5 levels and no extra material, as in the Mega Drive version, but it does change the enemy placement around quite a bit. It's not a very good game. It is generally being poorly well received, and I have completed it, and I agree, feels very different. The graphics are weird. I mean, I don't even want to call them shite. They're just weird. It's like the sprites are redrawn, but very poorly, and that shouldn't be the case when the Master System version still had the characters looking like the arcade version. Christ, the Commodore 64 version did. So it's weird, but it did have a couple of little changes which I thought was just like cool because I wasn't expecting them. End of level 4 is an example. Now, instead of fighting just the grey enemies that would like the Hennings and Longhorns, you'll take on 2 dark giants. So there's like 2 Bad Brother versions, 2 sort of zombie Bad Brother giants now instead of just basic enemies. So I thought that was a good little change, a twist.
I've never really played through it. I played the first level.
It's only a curiosity. It's only a curiosity, really. The thing with the knights as well, they've been changed a bit now. If I remember right, there's only 1 of each. And they're classed as sort of like Death Adder's closest lieutenant. So maybe another little nod to Conan the Barbarian with the Thulsa Doom having 2 sort of close lieutenants. So you fight them, and there's even dialogue and cutscenes that directly relate to them, which I will talk about quickly. Death Adder's strange, very hard fight. Again, everything is just different from the arcade game. Quickly on the cutscenes, very interesting, very well done actually.
Yeah.
If I remember right, the game is made by Telenet, and again, I think it came out in 1990, so it's not long after the arcade game. So it's still quite an early PC Engine game to have like dialogue and good cutscenes, and these are the highlight of the game. So I would say definitely from a collector or someone interested in Golden Axe point of view, you have to give it a go or watch a long play on YouTube. But if you're not that interested, or you only love the feel of the arcade and the Mega Drive, just avoid.
Yeah, you want to enjoy playing it, but it's probably an interesting one to see.
Well, another version that's interesting, and it's interesting because of how it's done, is the PC, like the DOS PC version.
Oh God, yeah.
And I'm not going to go into all the computer versions. I'll just have a quick scan over to see what they came out on, because there's quite a few of those. DOS PC was released in America directly by Sega, and I think there was a US Gold release over there. Over here, US Gold released like Commodore, Amiga, Spectrum, Amstrad, Atari ST. All very good versions, by the way, based on the arcade game, with using elements of the Mega Drive version, like sound effects and some sprite work on the 16-bit games. Good versions, but I'm not touching them because there's too many. But the PC version is based directly on the Mega Drive game, and it's odd and at the same time great because it looks so good. Obviously, with the sharp visuals.
Yeah, I mean, visuals-wise, it's fantastic. I mean, it's a good match for like what the Mega Drive's bringing, but it feels
it's
janky.
It's an uncanny valley game though, because if you looked at it standing still, you'd gone, "Oh, great! The Mega Drive version's here." You know, it's even got the dual, it's got the beginner mode, it's got the adjustable life bars and all the sound tests. They've literally taken the Mega Drive version and ported it to the PC, but it looks like they've changed the engine completely. Because the engine feels totally different. I mean, the music is different, although it's decent for MIDI. I believe it was.
Yeah, it was MIDI.
Yeah, and the sound effects are different. But, you know, at that time, 1990, you didn't expect too much, so it's there. But when you play the game again, you could probably be better off just watching a YouTube vid. It plays nothing like the Mega Drive version. And enemies who shouldn't be hard are absolutely solid. One bit I will touch on, though, I really like about the PC, and we did discuss it before, though, is the duel is now completely different.
Yeah.
So it is worth watching. There's a YouTube video of the duel on there, so if you don't want to play it, because it's very hard. I think it's 15 battles now as well. They've given you totally new enemy types. Sorry, not new enemy types, but versions of enemies you wouldn't have normally fought. So you've got, if I believe right, you're actually fighting Deathbringer at the end of the duel now, and you'll have a combination of like a giant and a knight and Death Adder fighting together. So you'll be fighting 3 massive enemies in one arena. It just changes up the whole duel from the Mega Drive and makes it 10 times harder. So again, no more of a curiosity than the game you need to own. But the last version we'll talk about, the one that is an absolute travesty, is the 2002 release, I believe, maybe?
PlayStation 2 version.
There's a PlayStation 2 version of Golden Axe 1
now.
It's
an absolute stinker.
It shouldn't have been, because it's very hard to even call it a conversion, because it is a remake, as said, but it's got to be mentioned because it's clearly based on Golden Axe 1. It's got the characters and the levels and the enemies of Golden Axe 1. It's got 1 or 2 new enemy types, but they're not very good. It just does nothing with the material to make it better, and the levels are all flat.
It's awful.
It puts it into a 3D sort of fighting perspective and all. So it's not just like 2D fighting. in a 3D environment or 3D graphics.
It's trying to be like 3D
fighting force, maybe.
Environment almost.
It's just weird. I mean, I wouldn't even say a look at this one. I mean, again, it's probably a game that you're probably better off watching a YouTube vid, but this shows how different it is. It's like the guy playing for about an hour.
Fighting force, you'd move around in the environment.
Yeah, you had like a lot more stuff to do. Yeah,
full 3D, but this is like it's stuck in a 2D camera.
Yeah,
like it's stuck in one plane. But you're trying to move around like you're in a 3D fighter, and it just feels terrible.
I watched a long play. I've never played it. I mean, all right, does that mean I shouldn't be judging it because I haven't actually played it?
Feel free to judge it.
All the reviews have been bad, and it looks bad, and it's like, I just have no desire to play this. I've looked at all the games, like games that were 20 years older than Golden Axe PS2, and looked at them recently even and went, I'd like to play that game, and I've got no desire at all. And this is PS2 as well. I mean, by PS2 era, polygon work was starting to look quite good. You weren't going to be expecting like Tekken 1 or Virtua Fighter 1. I mean, with Golden Axe style or Dynamite Decker or classics like that.
As long as it was stylized right, it looked fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, so there's a good comparison really if you compare Golden Axe PS2 to Die Hard Arcade. It's still early Saturn-based fighting game, beat 'em ups, but done right. And done away with a 3D beat 'em up should be. But that's all I'll see on the various versions of Golden Axe.
Let's get into the ending point and talk about our reviews and reasons why. I'll go first. So, like I said before, Golden Axe difficulty wise, it's easy to master. I think. Oh, it's not easy to master, but it can be mastered.
It's a technical game.
Yeah, and then when it is, it's like a joy to play, but it can be done in the credit.
It's closer to Double Dragon than Final Fight in style of play. In a Final Fight, you might get get the shit knocked out in a level, but if you can press one button, you'll do a bit of damage. Where Golden Axe, you'll get chopped to hell. So even though it's an easy game, you need to understand the mechanics, which is a good game.
It's a good game. And it's I think that difficulty wise, it's nicely balanced and everything, but as an arcade game, it feels because of that. But I prefer that personally.
Yeah. Well, in my review, I'm not even going to put that element in there because I just can't. I can't.
But graphically wise and everything, it's a great looking game. It's a great sounding game. There's not many things I can really. Well, there's not anything really I can think of off the top of my head that's a negative for the game. For me, I mean, I think we've talked through everything on it. I'd give it a solid 9 out of 10. I think it's a fantastic arcade game. The only thing is I know that we've got more and better ones coming up that possibly rate higher than Golden Axe, so I'm not going to give it a 10. So I'm going to give it a 9. That's me done on that.
Well, I'll obviously explain, but I'm going to go in first now and say it's a 9 for me as well, mine. It was always going to be a 9. I'm influenced by what you've just said all. I'm not going to even include the element of being an arcade game, which it should be there, but I'm looking at a game as something to be played for what it is without any outside influences. So again, I second what he said with graphics, sound and gameplay. Obviously the review is only based around the arcade version. We've kept the format like that, and I think we should for now. It would be a massive article if we reviewed every individual version.
I think we're at about 90 minutes now.
Oh, we are. But it's just got a good feel, and for me, if you're someone who likes beat 'em up games, belt scrollers, side scrolling fighting games, you can't go better than playing like Golden Axe. It's just everything about it's great. I mean, it's and like I said, it's such a nostalgic game for me. It's the first game that really got us interested in console gaming as a whole, and the first, like I say, obviously, I know this is about the Mega Drive version. I'm sorry I have to insert in there, but I will integrate with the arcade. But it got me, those two versions, the arcade and the Mega Drive, between them, it just opened up a whole new world for me of console gaming and how more advanced console games can be. Like I say, I'm somebody who grew up with a VIC-20 and a Commodore 64 for quite a few years. We had a NES at one point as well, before we moved on to the Mega Drive. But having a game that looks and plays like Golden Axe is just fantastic. It's timeless masterpiece.
It is
9 out of 10. Like I say.
It lives up to it today. It's still a fantastic game to play. 15-20 minutes you're through it, and it's a joy and a blast to play.
Yeah, I'll never forget that game. I love it.
I think that pretty much does it for us, buddy.
Yeah, champion.
So thank you very much, everyone, for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, please leave us a comment, subscribe, drop us a message, have a chat with us. You should be able to find all the links to our email and social media on the podcast page. We look forward to talking to you, and we'll see you next time. So see you soon.
See you soon.
Bye now.
Take care.